130 years ago, in a world full of evil foes and mighty martial artists, a calamity befell, destroying everything in its path. This calamity, known as the Silent Night, devastated the land and caused countless bloody wars. People were killed and all hope was lost. However, as soon as the Silent Night started reaching its apex, the martial masters of the world came together to form an alliance. This alliance, known as the Central Heavenly Alliance, decided to take matters into their own hands. Under their own name, they formed a separate group called the Northern Heavenly Sect, a group of the best fighters and masters who could fight against the Silent Night. The first leader of this sect was a martial artist known as Baek Jin Hu. Under his rule, the sect created countless elixirs and martial techniques that helped fight against the Silent Night. This allowed the sect to successfully grow in power and push back the Silent Night. The next leaders of the sect all followed the path of their predecessor and helped the sect to grow and prosper in the face of calamity. Now, the current leader of the sect, Jin Quan Ho, has been fighting the Silent Night with all of his might and is considered one of the great pillars of the Northern Heavenly Sect. These four great pillars are the current fighters who have bravely fought against the Silent Night and have completely eradicated it from the world, and their leader is Jin Quan. The four pillars fight like a brotherhood. There is clear loyalty and strength amongst their ranks. However, this strength is short-lived. The Northern Wall, which was once heavily guarded, crumbled and the blame fell on Jin Quan. The other members of the pillars planned to betray Jin Quan Ho, their leader. They invoked the wrath of the Nine Skies, a powerful group of rulers who oversee everything. According to these rulers, Jin Quan has been charged with treason and betrayal. He used the Silent Night against his own people and caused the Northern Wall to collapse. The Nine Skies informed Jin Quan that his own friends, the men who fought alongside on the battlefield, testified against him. Jin Quan is hurt to hear this. He looks at the other pillars standing in the crowd gathered in front of him, but no one meets his gaze. Jin Quan knows that he is outnumbered and that there is no way out of this. He kneels before the crowd and admits defeat. As the leader, he gives out a final order, that the Heavenly Sect will be dismantled, and that his son, Jin Muwan, will not be harmed by the Nine Skies or the Central Heavenly Alliance. The cruel rulers are reluctant to expect, but they know that Jin Quan's heroic speech and admittance has caused a stir in the people, and their will is wavering. The Nine Skies accept and promise not to hurt his child. Jin Quan lifts up his sword and looks at his son for a final goodbye. He only asks for forgiveness as he thrusts the sword into his chest. Muwan looks on in horror as his father does before him. 3 years later, a battered and tied-up Muwan is being interrogated by a group of lowly martial artists. They want to know about the location of the weapons and martial techniques, but Muwan does not entertain their request. The men try to scare Muwan and threaten to throw him to the wolves, but Muwan only laughs back. In anger, one of the men cuts off Muwan's finger. He yells out in pain and cries out the words, "The Nine Skies." The men are confused about this, but they don't realize that Muwan is not an ordinary kid. When Jin Quan had fallen, the area belonging to the Northern Heavenly Sect was also left abandoned. The four pillars who betrayed their leader took away the martial scrolls and artifacts. Everyone left to follow the four pillars, and the area was left in ruin. Except for one individual. Muwan was left there all alone. He stayed there waiting to be rescued, but only had to survive on his own. Even though he did not have much left, the Central Heavenly Alliance was worried that Jin Quan's son would learn martial arts and techniques and revive the Northern Sect. To make sure this doesn't occur, mercenaries were dispatched to guard the area and keep an eye on Muwan. Their main objective was to make sure that Muwan does not learn about martial art and does not learn any technique that would make him powerful. The captain of this mercenary group, Jiang Pai-san, is suspicious of Muwan and the ones to tie him up, demanding to know the locations of the martial scrolls. On their first, he notices Muwan lurking around the area, but does not approach him or pay him any attention. The following days, Muwan also ignored the presence of the guards and continues with his routine. He eats his simple snacks, works on his blacksmith techniques, and generally loiters around. Sometimes he has dreams about his father, but he usually shoves them aside when he wakes up. But even if he seems inactive, he is planning something. He does not plan on letting his father's sacrifice go to waste. He continues with his midnight scrolls, but that is precisely when the guards also attack. And now, he finds himself tied up before them with a missing finger. Mu Wan reminds them again that the Central Alliance made a promise with my father, and if they hurt him more, the Alliance will be dispatched to deal with the guards. Pai San does not care for his words and demands to know the locations of the scrolls and techniques, but Mu Wan reminds them that the Central Alliance was ruthless in their attempt to completely dismantle the Northern Sect, and there is nothing left. Pai San raises his sword to attack Mu Wan because of his words, but one of his other captains, Mu Song, stops him. He reminds Pai San that the boy is correct and should be left alone for now. The captain reluctantly leaves the boy while Mu Wan is released, and he falls to the ground holding his injured hand. Mu Sang offers him a cloth and looks at the boy with pity. Once the dust settles, Mu Wan climbs to the highest peak, reflecting on his sorry state. He knows that the Central Alliance is good for nothing and has left him completely abandoned, but he is also aware of another secret. The ultimate secret of the Northern Sect, the ultimate martial scroll, is still present in this location. This scroll is the location itself, and it can only be deciphered from above. To the naked eye, the engravings on the wall of the Northern Sect are just ancient gibberish, but to his trained eye, once the sun starts to set, the engravings cast a shadow on the wall, which is an ancient language from the Lower Moon Kingdom. In this language, the first sect leader recorded all of his martial techniques and scrolls, and this tradition continued with every sect leader, including Mu Wan's father. Mu Wan has to be extremely careful with this secret. He has to make sure that the mercenaries do not catch wind of what he's doing, otherwise he will lose the upper hand. Even the Four Pillars don't know about this secret. Every day Mu Wan goes to the rooftops trying to learn more, but he has to pretend like he's loitering around in order to not appear suspicious. One day, while sitting on the rooftops, pondering over the engravings, Mu Wan notices an old friend coming towards the Northern Sect. Mr. Huang used to be a soldier under Jin Kuang's sect. He was a man who never showed any physical prowess, but Jin Kuang still trained him, and because of that, he is still loyal to Mu Wan, and often brings him supplies from the outside world. Mr. Huang is worried to see Mu Wan's injured finger. He brings the boy not only food, but also relics and odd pieces from the outside world. This time, he brought a sacred rock with him, which was one part of a prosperous region, but now one of the Four Pillars has taken over and enforced his rule. Mu Wan learns that since disbanding, each of the Four Pillars has settled in different regions and now exercise their own rule over the land. While Mu Wan invites Mr. Huang inside, the captain of the mercenaries receives a letter from the Central Alliance stating that an honored guest will be visiting them soon. This greatly angers him because now he has to fix some of the buildings. Mu Wan and Mr. Huang continue their conversation indoors. Mr. Huang informs him of the news of a young man who has been challenging martial artists and has been making quite the name for himself. This young man, known as Dam Su Cheon, is the son of one of the rulers in Nine Skies. His goal is to defeat 100 martial artists and create a world record. Mu Wan is slightly worried to hear this because this boy could pose a threat in the future. Once their conversation ends, Mu Wan bids farewell to Mr. Huang and heads towards his room. On the way, Mu Swang informs him of the honored guests coming to visit, but Mu Wan does not show any interest. When he enters his room, he notices snow trailed in. He quickly turns around, but a mysterious figure grabs him from behind and pulls a knife on his throat. The figure speaks in a womanly voice, demanding to know who Mu Wan is. Mu Wan confirms his identity and questions her back. But before she can answer, the blade falls and the woman falls to the ground. Mu Wan stares at the fallen women in front of him in disbelief. She is clearly injured and on the verge of death. Mu Wan takes her in and places her on a bed. He looks at the wound on her shoulder and realizes that she has been poisoned. Luckily, he has the antidote for a poison like this, but he is not sure if he should use his last antidote on a woman that he doesn't know and tried to kill him. Eventually, Mu Wan decides to use the antidote on the women. He looks at her wound and carefully administers the antidote. He then wraps the wound in cloth and lets the woman rest. Over the course of 3 days, Mu Wan takes care of this mysterious visitor. When she finally wakes up, she is disturbed by her unfamiliar surroundings, but quickly recalls the previous events. Mu Wan notices that she has woken up and gives her some porridge. The woman, who reveals her name to be Yun Ha Seol, does not understand why Mu Wan is helping her out. She tries to make sense of his actions, but Mu Wan holds no malice. He informs her that she can rest in his room for a few more days and that he will continue taking care of her. While the repairs in the Northern Sect continue, The woman tries to use her energy to expel the rest of the poison from her body, but that is proving to be difficult. She lets out all of her energy, but blood spills from her mouth and she falls once more, but a figure cloaked in black saves her. The figure cloaked in black quickly uses pressure points to stabilize Yoon Ha-seol. He encourages her to also use her energy and try to expel the rest of the poison out. Ha-seol tries her best and manages to get rid of the remaining poison. The mysterious figure reveals himself to be Saryong, a known accomplice of Ha-seol. He refers to her as the young miss and explains how, when they were ambushed, he also went into hiding and finally found the young miss. Ha-seol is thankful that her acquaintance is alive and also helped her to survive. It appears that they have their own plans concerning their master who is not yet revealed. Saryong promises that he will be back and that Ha-seol should stay put in the northern sect and try to recuperate from her injuries. In his blacksmithing workshop, Mu-won is thinking about the gathering of the 10,000 shadows, the technique hidden within the northern sect. He has been secretly practicing the martial arts, but he has to be careful in order to not attract the attention of the guards. He uses a sword to swing it swiftly, and then decides to have a meal. Outside, he comes across Ha-seol, who has finally come out of the room for a scroll. The two of them have a meal together. Ha-seol is still suspicious of Mu-won, especially because he refuses to ask questions about her life. But Mu-won pays no attention and treats her kindly. Ha-seol even thanks him for his kindness towards her. Over the next couple of days, Mu-won continues to secretly practice the martial arts, while Ha-seol concentrates her energy to get better. In a blink of an eye, 3 months pass by, and Ha-seol has become even more familiar with Mu-won. It is now also time for special guests to arrive at the northern sect. The special guests from the 9 skies finally arrive. Amongst them is the daughter, Su-ah, and the son, Shim-won-lee, the children of one of the 9 skies ruler. The other guest is Hyeryong, the granddaughter of another 9 skies ruler. The 3 of them are accompanied by General Mok Yoon-pyong and other members of the Central Alliance. Pai-san and the other mercenaries quickly rush towards the gate to welcome them. He assures them that arrangements have been made for their arrival. Once inside, Won-lee acts quite arrogant and does not like the sorry state of the northern sect. As they make their way, they run into Mu-won and Ha-seol as well. The meeting is a little tense as Mu-won is considered a threat by all of these people. Pai-san is also angered to see Ha-seol, because he does not know how this strange girl entered the sect under his nose. Mu-won retains his composure and steers clear of any trouble. He bids the group farewell and pays them no mind. At night, Won-lee talks to the general about how he plans on overtaking the northern sect and turning it into his own dominion, but before he can accomplish that, he has to get rid of Mu-won. He visits Mu-won in his blacksmith workshop. At first, Mu-won is taken aback by the sudden arrival of this threat, but he tries to play it safe. Won-lee takes hold of a sword and challenges Mu-won. He refuses to believe that the heir of the northern sect does not know how to fight. Mu-won is worried that his secret might come out, but the murderous intent in Won-lee is clear. Won-lee stabs, Mu-won fully expecting him to dodge the lethal hit, but he doesn't. Instead, Mu-won takes the hit and the sword leaves a bloody wound. For a second, Won-lee felt some sort of energy, but instead he is met with a pathetic man who can't even dodge. Mu-won knows that he is weak right now and still training. If his secret is revealed, he will be killed. He plays his cards right and takes the hit, falling to the ground. Just then, Hyeryong enters, begging Won-lee to stop. Her guard assists Mu-won while Hyeryong yells at Won-lee for his actions. His attitude is completely dismissive. In his mind, Mu-won is nothing but a pathetic man. He leaves the place while Hyeryong gives Mu-won a recovery pill and sends him back to his room. When Mu-won wakes up, Ha-seol is sitting by his side, worried about his injuries. Mu-won thanks her and is glad for her presence, but she informs him that she will be leaving soon. Unknown to Mu-won, she has received an order that her master is back. Mu-won feels a little sad to hear that his new friend is leaving soon. Far away from the sect, another burly man is making his way towards the northern sect. This man looks like a proud warrior. A group of strange men try to stop him in his path, but he swiftly defeats them, continuing his journey towards Mu-won's location. Back at the sect, Hyeryong apologizes to Mu-won for Won-lee's actions and promises him that she will not be cruel to him. She then later meets up with Won-lee and informs him that they need Mu-won for their plans and that no harm should come to him right now. In an infernal village devastated by fire, Tai Mukong, known as the Demon of Chaos, has just been informed that the troops he sent out to catch his target are all dead. This causes him to rally his dark wolves towards the location of the sect. Back at the northern sect, Musang is confronted by an old friend who now works with the Central Alliance. The friend greets him kindly, but in the past this same friend stole Musang's lover. He does not act in kindness, and tries to strike his former friend, but he is quickly humbled. The friend, Yeup Wool, strikes him on the arm, and leaves him with a warning that Musang needs to check his attitude. This leaves Musang in a terrible state. In his workshop, Mu Wan works on a little present for Haseol. The two of them have a meal together, and he presents the present to her, a small pin with a flower on it. Haseol is moved by this and feels glad that he was given a present. In her room, she looks at the gift fondly but is interrupted by Saryung, who informs her that their master is coming to the northern sect. Haseol feels a little worried, but she has to prepare herself. She hides the pin, which Saryung notices and warns her not to get attached. Musang is still in a deep state of anger and frustration. He feels humiliated about what his old friend did to him and is now training like a maniac to get better. As he trains, he begins to lose himself, but a strange voice guides him. The voice instructs him to let go of his doubt and anger and to keep his mind clear. The words help him deliver a strike with his sword that even amazes him. Mu Wan was the one behind this. He gets up from the rooftop calling it a day, but then feels an intense energy. Standing before him is the burly warrior from before. Mu Wan is amazed by the intense aura of the man before him. He does not take a single step forward. All of a sudden, the man exclaims loudly and greets his sibling. This man is Dam Su Cheon, the third child of the Nine Skies ruler, and a sibling to Wan Li and Su Ah. He is also the famous martial artist who has defeated 100 opponents in a short span of time. The siblings meet up with each other, and Su Cheon is welcomed in. Mu Wan does not stop for longer and moves ahead. He runs into the general, who informs him that he and Haseol have been invited to dinner at Huaqian Palace. Mu Wan is surprised, but he accepts. The next day, Mu Wan finds Su Cheon waiting for him. Su Cheon is not hostile, but instead expresses his gratitude towards Mu Wan. He wants to make sure that Mu Wan feels comfortable and accepts the dinner invitation. Mu Wan finds it odd, but remains polite as well. The following night, Mu Wan and Haseol make their way to the palace. At first, things are a little awkward, but then Su Cheon informs them that they plan on creating a new martial society in the northern sect, and that they need Mu Wan to be a witness. Haseol finds this outrageous, but Mu Wan gently agrees. Even though there is some tension between them, Mu Wan's acceptance is a huge relief. Mu Wan does not want Haseol to get into trouble and keeps everything calm. Su Cheon expresses to talk to him alone for some time. He takes Mu Wan to the balcony and offers him a position in the Cerulean Dragon Society and urges him to work with them. Before Mu Wan can reply, an ominous aura spreads throughout the sect, causing everyone to stir in alarm. The Demon of Chaos has finally arrived at the gates of the northern sect. The guards are absolutely no match for him. His dark wolves have even surrounded Mu Wan and the others in the palace. Hye Ryung recognizes the enemies as part of the Silent Night and is in disbelief, thinking about the possible repercussions of their reappearance. Su Cheon springs into action and rushes towards Tai Mukong. He introduces himself as the mighty Su Cheon, the one who is considered the martial artist of great renown. Tai Mu laughs upon seeing this kid in front of him, but he humors him. At first, Su Cheon uses a technique that cracks every bone in Tai Mu's body and leaves him bloody and bruised, but the unnatural man snaps back into place. This confirms that the force in front of him is part of the Silent Night. Tai Mu then rushes towards Su Cheon, swings into the air and slams into Su Cheon, leaving him completely wounded and unable to get back up. Just a simple technique is enough to bring him down. Tai Mu declares that he will not kill him right now, but wait for him to get stronger first. As he turns away, Ah Su, the younger sibling of Su Cheon, starts to yell at Tai Mu for being arrogant, and she warns him that her father will punish him for good. But before she can say anything more, Tai Mu kills her, leaving the rest of the siblings in utter shock. Wan Li witnesses his sister's death and falls into a frenzy. He lunges towards Tai Mu with his technique active, but is quickly slammed away by Tai Mu's enormous fist. The odds are looking bad for those fighting against the Silent Night. Hye Ryung realizes this and orders her guard to take away the injured bodies of Su Cheon and Wan Li and escape from this place. She uses her technique, an ability that lets her create illusions to deceive Tai Mu into thinking that he is standing in a white void. She then swiftly escapes, leeching behind Mu Wan and Haseol. He takes notice of this betrayal but says nothing. Tai Mu comes out of the illusion and looks around. His real target is actually Haseol, who has desperately been trying to run away with Mu Wan, but now she has been spotted. Tai Mu now faces his actual opponent. He lunges forward to attack Haseol, but something special occurs. Through the dust and debris, Mu Wan notices Haseol, who is now floating in the air. Her hair has turned white, and her aura is completely different. Within the silent night, there is a ruler who is considered the absolute ruler, and holds authority, and supporting this ruler are 4 demon lords. One of the demon lords is called the Witch of White Night, and her descendant now stands before Mu Wan. Haseol decides to hold off Tai Mu on her own. She lets him strangle her while she struggles. She can only think about thanking Mu Wan, who she can no longer see. But before completely giving up hope, a strike comes out of nowhere, and Tai Mu lets go of Haseol. Standing before her is Mu Wan, with a sword in his hand, and his energy appears to be completely different. Haseol is shocked to see Mu Wan sprint into action like this. He asks her to step behind him and faces Tai Mu, whose arm has been injured by Mu Wan. But the injury does not heal. Mu Wan has to think about the techniques he has been learning. This is his first real fight, but he curses his bad luck because the opponent in front of him is not normal. Tai Mu recognizes that there is something wrong with Mu Wan and decides that he has to kill him right now. He lunges forward with a punch towards Mu Wan, but to his surprise, Mu Wan dodges the attack. In fact, Mu Wan dodged every single attack initiated by Tai Mu. This makes the Demon of Chaos very angry. He has had enough of this and launches a technique known as the Chaotic Rain of Destruction, which sends several boulders flying towards Mu Wan and Haseol. Mu Wan is completely trapped. He does not know how he is going to make it. Mu Song also enters the battlefield, noticing the flying boulders and finding the body of his old friend Yeop Wool. Things are not looking good for Mu Wan, but at the last moment he unleashed another secret technique, Waves of Desolation. Mu Wan unleashes a flurry of sword swings that swiftly cut the incoming boulders in half and shred them into tiny little pieces. Tai Mu is surprised to see this and realizes that if he is not careful, he could be killed. Mu Wan continues to swing towards Tai Mu. The two of them clash, and Mu Wan is thrown violently onto the ground, bleeding from his wounds. For a second, it looks like Tai Mu has come out unscathed, but he has a huge gaping slash on his chest. He does not know when Mu Wan managed to hit him, but the wound is deep, and it does not heal. Tai Mu is not in great anger. He feels anger towards having to defeat someone like Mu Wan, who hides his powers. He moves forward to crush him, but Haseol steps in and stops Tai Mu. In return, Tai Mu slams her hard and sends her flying away. Tai Mu then slams his foot into Mu Wan, causing him to shriek in pain. Haseol is caught by Saryung, who arrives just in time. Along with him arrives Haseol's master, the current Witch of White Night. Her aura is not only intense but beyond anything seen in this world. She intends on destroying Tai Mu for once and for all. But Saryung also has his own ideas. He is angered to see Haseol act so recklessly for a boy. He does not like that Haseol is showing emotions and rushes forward to kill Mu Wan. Haseol begs Saryung to not kill Mu Wan. She explains that she is indebted to him and that he saved her life. Even though Saryung is reluctant, he agrees to not harm Mu Wan and offers Haseol a recovery pill that will heal her wounds. Instead of taking the pill, Haseol looks at Mu Wan. Tai Mu is still alive, but his injuries have not healed. He looks at the Witch of White Night, who is ready to demolish the enemy before her. In a flash of bright light, Tai Mu escapes, and the Witch of White Night looks on and turns her gaze towards Mu Wan. She intends to kill him because, due to him, her descendant is becoming weak and attached. She steps forward to kill Mu Wan, but Haseol steps in. She explains that she was the one who came to him, and he has been nothing but kind to her. She wants Mu Wan to be spared because he nursed her back to health. Haseol's master does not like this attitude, but she can see that her descendant is earnest. She decides to spare the boy on one condition, that Haseol will learn the ultimate ability of the Witch of White Night. Haseol agrees. This means her training will become more difficult, but she does not wish to see Mu Wan come to harm. She turns towards Mu Wan for one final goodbye. She gives him the recovery pill and hugs him. The two of them now have to part ways. Mu Wan is left devastated, and he vows to become stronger and to become the rightful ruler of the northern sect. However, unknown to him, Mu Sang has witnessed everything. Su Meng is shocked to realize how powerful Mu Wan is. He did not believe that a boy who appeared so pathetic could have so much power. The techniques that he used were powerful, and his strength is undeniable. Su Meng now understands that the descendant of the northern sect is not to be taken lightly. And he also realizes that Mu Wan was the one who guided him while he was practicing. Mu Wan spends days in the now destroyed northern sect. He does nothing but collect rocks. Mu Sang is also still there. When Mu Wan comes out of his room, the two meet. Mu Sang expresses how he is glad that the descendant of the northern sect is still powerful and alive. He apologizes for his previous actions and intends to know where Mu Wan is headed. Mu Wan informs him that the Central Alliance will look into the matter, and they will realize that the Silent Knight is back, and the Mu Wan has powers. He does not wish to get into those matters right now, as he still has to train. Mu Sang agrees. He too has affairs to settle in the Central Alliance. Before parting ways, Mu Sang makes a request. He wishes to serve Mu Wan and follow his way. He kneels down and expresses his desire to follow the northern sect once more. Mu Wan agrees, and titles Mu Sang as his first blade. Mu Wan, Mu Sang, and Mr. Huang, who joined them later on, are now looking at the remains of the northern sect. Everything is burned down and destroyed. There is sadness in the air. Mu Wan and Mr. Huang set off towards isolated mountains, where Mu Wan will train in the martial arts. Now that the world will believe him to be dead, it will be easier for him to focus on his training. Mu Sang will remain and wait for the Central Alliance troop to arrive. He will inform them that he is the last remaining survivor and let them know that Mu Wan is dead. He promises to wait for Mu Wan, no matter how long it takes. The group sets off on their own path. Mr. Huang leaves Mu Wan at the foot of the mountains where he will reside. He promises to come by every 4 months with supplies. Mu Wan is most grateful for this kindness. Mu Sang is arrested by the Central Alliance. The troops plan on interrogating him. If they find proof that the Silent Knight is back and Mu Wan is dead, then Mu Sang will be let go. Otherwise, he will remain a captive. The White Dragon Merchant Troop, a strong and wealthy troop that is renowned all over the land. They have gathered the family members, including the previous head of the troop, Tai Tai, to discuss the situation in one of the cities, Unnam. The troop's dealings span over a variety of areas, and the chaos in Unnam is of detriment to them. The troop discusses how to proceed forward. They decide that the third son, Yunja Myung, will go to Unman to assess the situation, since he was the one who was in charge of the city in the first place. Tai Tai agrees, even though there are some objections from the eldest son and current leader, Yunhu Myung. Tai Tai also wants Myung to take a bodyguard with him. This bodyguard, called Huang, is no one remarkable, but he is reliable and will inform the troop of any changes and important information. Hu Myung then proceeds to look for Huang after his mother's final order. He can't help but think to himself how guard Huang is no one special and not very adept at fighting. He wonders why his mother chose him over someone more competent. After leaving Mu Wan at the mountain, Mr. Huang joined as a guard for the White Dragon Merchant Troop. He works with the other guards and trains them as well. He meets Tai Tai, the previous family head, who informs him that she selected him from the task because of his unusual good luck. She remembers how her eldest son was in danger, and her life was under threat as well. But Huang was with them during that time, and they were able to escape unscathed. Huang will set out for Unnam with the rest of the troop. But before making that journey, he decides to meet up with Mu Wan. It has been 7 years since Mu Wan started his isolated training. He has grown into a capable young man and seems even more formidable than before. Huang brings him his supplies and informs him that the Central Alliance is trying to keep the 4 pillars under control, and that the Silent Knight has not made a reappearance. He also lets Mu Wan know that he will be heading out to Unnam for 3 months and will be back by the end of spring. Mu Wan is worried about Huang's safety. Huang has been the only constant in his life, a person who has helped him immensely. He does not wish to see Huang get hurt. Huang notices that Mu Wan is worried and assures him that he will be fine and will soon meet Mu Wan again. Huang sets out for his journey to Unnam, and Mu Wan continues his training. However, after the stated 3 months, Huang does not return. In fact, it has been over 2 months since his expected arrival. Mu Wan suspects that something has happened to Huang. He picks up his sword and slashes a mountain into pieces, creating a path for himself. He is determined to find Huang. Mu Wan, disguised in a cloak, arrives at Nanju City, the place where the merchant troupe resides. After paying for a room in a small tavern, he makes his way towards the headquarters of the troupe. There he runs into a guard who finds him suspicious at first, but Mu Wan creates a lie and tells the guard that he is Huang's nephew, and here to learn about his whereabouts. Upon learning this, the guard eases and lets Mu Wan through the gates. Mu Wan meets up with the captain of the guard, Gong Jin Sung. He asks the general whether he knows anything about Huang's disappearance, and to meet a guard known as Mun Jung, a young guard that Huang used to train. The general informs him that every single person, including Master Yun, disappeared, and that this is a great issue within the troupe right now. Mu Wan is interested to hear this and makes the offer to join the troupe as well. The general agrees to put in a word for him. The captain and the previous leader, Tai Tai, meet up with 2 members of the Iron Brigade, a notoriously influential and powerful group from Unam. A witty man, known as Mu Huan, and a strong warrior known as Che Yak Ran. The group strike a deal that the mercenaries will go to Unam, along with the general and accompanied by Mu Wan. They will make an effort to find Master Yun and the other disappeared individuals. They sign a contract and Tai Tai is put a little at ease, knowing that such capable people will be heading out to find her son. However, an unexpected member will also be joining them. Seo Yin, the daughter of the troupe, has decided to accompany the group. She believes she can take care of herself, even though her eldest brother objects to her decision. In the end, the group heads out towards Unam to find the missing members of the troupe and Huang. The march towards Unam continues with Mu Wan accompanying the troops. Mun Jung is also on the journey with them. As a young boy, he is scared but also excited. Mu Wan decides to keep an eye on him and offers him assistance if he ever needs it. This greatly thrills Mun Jung, who gets all fired up. He tells Mu Wan that Huang taught him some techniques to learn martial arts, and that he wants to be a brave guard just like his father, who previously died during a mission. As the march continues, the members from the Iron Brigade notice that Mu Wan's energy is not normal, but Mu Wan pays them no mind. Instead, he thinks about what path he wants to take in life. For Mu Wan, his only wish is to find Huang and Ha Xiu. He wishes to reunite with his friends, but he doesn't know what to do after that. He knows that going against the Central Alliance is a dangerous path, and his father would not want him to waste his life in revenge, but he also has a duty as the current leader of the Northern Sect. While thinking about his life, the march comes to a halt. Soon, they will be passing the river that will lead them to Unnam. Before that, they will rest and divide themselves into 2 groups. The groups will work in shifts, with one group resting, while the other guards the carriages. Mu Wan's group is the first to set. They head towards an inn, where they are served cheap but delicious food. Mun Jung even has a crush on the waitress, who is a girl about his age. Even the Iron Brigade members are eating, but they keep alert, especially when it comes to Mu Wan. As things are going smoothly, members from a monastery come in. They are guarding their young master, who looks quite prideful and arrogant. No one pays them mind, but after a while, one of the members calls for the chef. When the chef appears, the monastery member throws a bowl full of food in his face. Apparently, their young master broke a tooth eating the food, and now the chef has incurred the wrath of the monastery. The chef, Ham Tai Pyung, is left in utter disbelief for the accusation being used against him. Mu Hai, the monastery official, is clearly taking revenge for something in the past. Apparently, 15 years ago, Tai Pyung was also part of the monastery, and he was considered a great warrior. He bested Mu Hai in a contest for which Mu Hai held a grudge. Even though Tai Pyung was removed from the monastery for issues that emerged against him, Mu Hai still hates the fact that he was unable to win. Now, standing in front of him, Mu Hai is trying to frame Tai Pyung. He insists that the food broke his master's tooth and that Tai Pyung must pay. Tai Pyung stands firm and knows that Mu Hai is lying. But confronting Mu Hai is not the right move. Tai Pyung is slammed against the wall and starts bleeding profusely. Tai Pyung's daughter rushes to his side. She begs for Mu Hai to stop, but he pays her no heed. In fact, he shoves her inside as well. The rest of the people in the tavern feel uncomfortable, but no one steps in because of the position of the monastery. However, Mun Jung steps in. Even though the other members ask him not to, He politely asks Mu Hai to let go of the incident this time. His polite demeanor makes Mu Hai even more angry. He decides to cut off Moon Jung's arm as a form of punishment. Everyone braces for this to happen, but Mu Wan steps in. The Iron Brigade member Mu Huan tries to stop Mu Wan, but it's not of use. Mu Wan cannot let an innocent member of their group be punished like this. He blocks Mu Hai's sword between his fingers and shatters it into pieces, astounding everyone in the inn. Mu Hai tries to attack him with his other hand, but that move is also blocked. Mu Wan's energy greatly disturbs Mu Hai. The monastery members spring into action and attack Mu Wan to defend their master, Mu Hai. A battle ensues and Mu Wan instructs Moon Jung to take Tai Pyong and his daughter to safety. Mu Wan then swiftly dodges all of the attacks directed towards him. This angers Mu Hai and he lunges forward, trying to cut Mu Wan, but he too is easily tackled. While Mu Hai attacks, the young master of the monastery who pretended to have a broken tooth because of the food also joins in the fight. He tries to stab Mu Wan from behind, but he is too slow, and Mu Wan not only grabs his blade but twists his arm. It becomes quite clear that the members of the monastery are no match for Mu Wan. Mu Huan wants to step in and stop the chaos, but as a member of the Iron Brigade, he cannot jeopardize the ties of his group with the monastery. He chooses not to intervene. Mu Hai threatens to engage the entire monastery against Mu Wan, but his threat is meaningless. Before the situation gets any worse, Seo Yin, the daughter of the troop, arrives expecting to meet the monastery members, but she stumbles upon the disastrous scene instead. The monastery members leave, and Seo Yin yells at Mu Wan for his behavior. She tries to make him understand that the monastery shares a close bond with the troop and his well-known connection. The fight could possibly jeopardize their entire relation. Mu Wan does not care for such formalities. He informs Seo Yin that instead of caring about the monastery, she should care about the members of her own troop and how they are treated. Seo Yin is left speechless when Mu Wan points out how Seo Yin did not care for the chef or his daughter, and showed no sign of care for those who were being wronged. Seo Yin feels upset to hear this, and even apologizes. Seo Yin decides to settle down for now, and deal with the matter in the morning. Mu Wan and Moon Jung have to spend the night outdoors as punishment. Moon Jung runs off to find materials they can use as bedding. While he leaves, Mu Huan appears to chat with Mu Wan. He tries to express the graveness of the situation, but Mu Wan shows him zero interest. Instead, he gives a speech about how martial art is about protecting people, and if those who practice the arts do not fulfill that duty, then there's no point in learning the martial arts. Mu Huan is surprised to hear these words. To him, they appear quite idealistic. But Mu Wan is determined to live a life where he helps and guides people. Mu Wan and Moon Jung sit around their little fire. Mu Wan explains to Moon Jung how his actions were rooted in the right sentiment, but because he is still weak, he couldn't solve the problem on his own. Moon Jung feels upset at his own weakness. He wants to grow stronger and asks Mu Wan how to be as strong as him. In particular, he also wants to learn how to block and crush blades between his fingers. Mu Wan explains that since he used to work as a blacksmith, he is good at recognizing the flaws of blades. He recalls how he tried to forge the sacred rock that Huang once gave to him into a blade, but could not mold the material into a blade. It took him years to tame the material and bend it to his will. When he was close to forging it, he felt a strong energy emanating from the blade. It reminded him of Ha Seol. He finally forged the blade, and it turned into something powerful but also dangerous. He now calls the blade Snowflower. While they continue their talk about blades, the vice president of the Iron Brigade, Yakran, quietly leaves some food for them. They don't understand why she did that, but they welcome the food. However, before they can retire for the night, Mu Wan feels a disturbance. From the other side approaches a large group of monastery members. Their head wants to confront Mu Wan, even though Mu Wan tries to make them realize that the mistake lies with their attitude. The head of the monastery is too full of pride to listen to the truth. Mu Wan has no choice but to pull out his blade. The head of the monastery, Mu Guang, orders his best disciples to attack Mu Wan, but with a single motion of his blade, all the members are sent flying. As more and more members attack, it becomes clear that Mu Wan does not even need to use his full strength to subdue his opponent. The head of the monastery looks on as his men are tackled swiftly, and the blade Mu Wan is holding is not even properly unsheathed. Mu Guang quickly realizes that his disciples are no match for someone like that. He asks them to fall back and not engage, but the men don't listen. In their pride and arrogance, they keep attacking only to be defeated by Mu Wan in a single strike. Both Seo Yin and the members of the Iron Brigade look on as Mu Wan engages in a fight. They are not only impressed, but also slightly terrified of this man who appears so humble but wields such frightening powers. Mu Guang has had enough. He wants Mu Wan to use his real powers. His words will bite him in the back. Mu Wan unleashes a powerful technique the likes of which have never been witnessed before. Mu Wan's sword technique is about to slice into Mu Guang's throat, but an unexpected voice stops him. Tai Pyong rushes forward to stop Mu Wan from hurting a member of the monastery. It is then explained to Mu Guang how Tai Pyong was framed and removed from the monastery because the other members were jealous of him. Mu Guang realizes that while he was in his isolated training, the other members falsely accused Tai Pyong of possessing demonic energy and killing other members. This caused him to be removed. However, instead of pleading his case, Tai Pyong was tired of all rivalry and decided to settle down with his wife and daughter. Mu Guang gathers all of his members and makes them bow down in shame. Mu Hai and his goons are also severely punished. One of them speaks out against Mu Hai and reveals the truth, while Mu Hai also decides to go on a tirade about how Mu Guang is too obsessed with martial arts and has forgotten about the monastery. He admits that he spent his entire life plotting and scheming and that everything he did for Mu Guang. This greatly angers the head of the monastery. He decides to strip away Mu Hai of his position in the monastery, and even promises Tai Pyong that the members will help him and his family in any way they can. He even tells Mu Wan to contact a person called Ha Jin Swol when he gets to Unam. The following day, Mu Wan and the rest of the group continue their travel towards Unam. On the way, Moon Jung can't help but admire Mu Wan. He also wants to learn to fight like that. Mu Wan advises him to keep focusing on the techniques that Huang was teaching him, and to switch his sword to a long sword. When they reach Sacheon, both of them go to different places looking for long swords, and while Moon Jung loves all of them, Mu Wan is not satisfied, until he finds a peculiar shop at the corner of a street. The senior blacksmith at this little corner forge looks like an eccentric old man. He immediately recognizes Mu Wan's blade as something not natural. He appreciates the blade in his hand and seems quite impressed by it and Mu Wan's abilities. He asks more about the blade, and Mu Wan explained that the blade is made from a sacred rock that was once worshipped by a tribe that was massacred. This has caused the blade to become bewitched. The old man then turns to Moon Jung and knows that the child is the one looking for a long sword. He thinks for a few seconds and goes into the back of the shop. He pulls out a long sword that looks deadly but also strong and reliable. At first, Moon Jung can barely hold it in his hands, but he is determined to learn with this sword, because it will help his physique and his martial techniques. The old man is pleased that the boy is excited to use the longsword, which is called Red Tooth. The old man does not ask for money. Instead, he just wants the two of them to visit again and buy him a drink. Mu Wan and Moon Jung bid farewell to the old man. As they make their way back, they come across a crowd of people. The onlookers are witnessing a violent crime being carried out against two elderly people. Before things can get worse, a tall, burly man with long hair interrupts. He questions why the authorities haven't shown up yet. He decides to take matters into his own hands. The man brutally beats up the things one by one. Mu Wan and Moon Jung move on now that the situation is taken care of. When they return back, the Iron Brigade members are all standing, bowing towards the door. Behind Mu Wan is the same violent man. He is the leader of the Iron Brigade, Yong Mu Sung. Mu Sung looks like a true warrior, but is also a hardy and loud man. He immediately introduces himself to Mu Wan and bluntly tells him that his subordinate, Mu Huan, has been talking badly about Mu Wan's personality. This bluntness is not only awkward, but also painful to deal with. Now that the leader of the Iron Brigade is here, Seo Yin tries to start an important meeting, but before it can commence, Mu Sung invites Mu Wan as well. This feels quite out of the ordinary since Mu Wan is not an important figure, but Mu Sung insists. Mu Wan awkwardly takes a seat while Moon Jung leaves the room. The meeting starts, and Seo Tin briefs everyone on the situation in Unnam. Apparently, two different sects, Black Fists and Blue Sword, are fighting with each other, and Hafer brought complete ruination to the land. Merchants are scared to go to this land, and the economy has also been hurting. According to them, Unnam is going to be a tricky situation. It becomes clear that the only way to really see what's going on is to go Unnam and assess the situation directly from there. An informant has also been sent by Mu Huan. Once the meeting dies down, Mu Sung gets up, declaring that he will leave now. He asks Mu Wan to follow him. The two of them walk alone as Mu Sung assesses Mu Wan's energy. They come towards the end of an alley. Mu Wan is hesitant because he thinks he will have to fight this man. Mu Sung also expressed his desire to test Mu Wan, but they don't fight. Instead, Mu Sung leads the two of them into a secret room. This place, known as the Black Moon, is a way for martial artists of remarkable powers to gain valuable knowledge. Mu Sung seems pretty proud of this place, and soon, a mysterious figure in black greets them. The Black Moon is an organization that no one knows anything about. They are greeted by the leader of the Sacheon branch, Mei Wol-ryung. Mu Sung gives her the money, and in return, she gives them vital information about Unnam. According to her reliable intel, a third party has been controlling the actions of the two sects fighting in Unnam. This confirms Mu Sung's suspicions as well. Even though this information is quite important, Wol-ryung does not find it to be sufficient. She also informs Mu Sung that a man named Nyung Won-pyung has put out a death threat against Mu Sung and his Iron Brigade. This information is of great interest to Mu Sung. He thanks the Black Moon for their service and heads out. Once they leave, Wol-ryung asks one of her subordinates to dispatch the highest-level disciples of the organization to keep an eye on Mu Wan. Once Mu Wan is back at the tavern, he stays awake looking over Moonjung while he practices. But he also notices the Iron Brigade members heading out in the middle of the night. In the morning when the caravans head out again, all the Iron Brigade members are sleeping on the way. Apparently, a mysterious group attacked Nyung Won-pyung and his guards. It was a great massacre, and many people lost their lives. Mu Wan realizes that it was the doing of the Iron Brigade. He does not approve of their methods, and he makes sure to relay this to Mu Sung. The group finally reach Unnam, however, before they can continue any further. An injured girl and an old man come rushing towards them from the forest. The renowned Tang family of Sacheon is tasked by the Central Alliance to head to Unnam to help with the situation. The Tang family is known for their poisons and assassination techniques. On this trip, Tang Gi-moon and Tang Mi-ryo head out on an expedition towards Unnam. While their journey goes smooth at first, they are quickly ambushed by strange creatures. Mi-ryo is quick to spring into action. She kills one of the beasts and protects her uncle. The members of the Tang clan gather around to protect the family members, but the monsters are relentless. Mi-ryo and Gi-mum decide to use their combined powers to create a poisonous field, but this barely has any effect on the creatures. Gi-mun uses his technique to defeat a beast. However, standing behind him is another tall, imposing figure. This shadowed figure, who appears out of nowhere, slams Gi-mun into the ground, greatly injuring him. Mi-ryo runs towards her uncle. The rest of the guards hold off the remaining forces, while Mi-ryo and her uncle run into the forest, where they come across the caravan of the troop, heading towards Unnam. Mi-ryo begs for the troop to help her, but Mu Hwan cannot make a decision. He doesn't know whether to trust these individuals or to let them fend off on their own. In his head, Mu Hwan thinks about the benefits of helping the Tang family, but also the repercussions of not carrying out their original task. Before he can even think, Mu Wan picks up Gi-moon and brings him into the carriage. Mu Hwan is angry to see this blatant disregard for his order, but he doesn't realize that they are surrounded by the same enemies who hunted down the Tang clan. Mu Hwan is shocked to learn how slow he was able to act, while Mu Wan was already aware of the danger. It becomes clear that a huge fight is going to start. The troops and the Iron Brigades get in position while the enemy, the Crimson Ghosts and their leader Nam Gun-wi, launch their attack. Chaos ensues as members of the Iron Brigade fight the beasts. Seo Yin also tries to fight, but she feels scared and cannot move. Moonjung is charged with taking care of the Tang family while Mu Wan goes head-on with the leader Gun-wi. Su Meng skillfully kills the beasts, but quickly realizes that these enemies are not from the mainland. While he fights off the Crimson Ghosts, Mu Wan is engaging in a thrilling battle of his own. Gun-wi is surprised that he cannot feel Mu Wan's energy, yet he still dodges his attacks and knows skillful sword techniques. Gun-wi reveals that the Crimson Ghosts are being ordered by the secret third party in Unnam, and in order to get their name, Mu Wan has to cut down Gun-wi himself. Mu Wan steps forwards with determination to reveal the name of the third party.